Hey, what's going on YouTube? Because not everybody can use taxpayer money to buy their optics, today I'm going to be reviewing the Vortex StrikeFire Generation 2 red and green dot sight. I have mine mounted on a Cole LE6920 Magpul edition, and it's on a lower 1/3 co-witness riser mount. These you have to buy separately. The optic normally comes with an absolute co-witness riser mount, but I think the cantilever lower 1/3 mount is really worth it because it gives you a more heads-up targeting picture. The optic uses a CR2 battery that's housed here, and the windage and elevation turrets are exactly where you would expect them to be on a regular scope. So let me just unscrew the cap. You can make half MOA adjustments using a screwdriver. The optic comes with lens cap covers. The controls are on the side. The top button raises the brightness and turns on the optic. The bottom button lowers the brightness and changes the reticle's color. So let me give you an idea of what you would see if you had a cheek weld. I don't have a camera crew, my channel is very low budget. So there you go, you can look at some counters. And there's the red dot. I'm gonna lower the brightness. And up again. Now I'm going to change the color by holding down the bottom button. There's green, green at ultra bright, and green very dim. I think the red is a lot more noticeable than the green, just based on its intensity and its brightness. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the optic to save battery. But the optic remembers your last used brightness setting, so when you turn it on, it isn't like at the middle brightness setting, it's where you last had it. So you can be ready to go at the brightness setting you always want. And without further ado, let's take this gun out to the range and perform some accuracy testing. Okay, this is my loadout for testing the Vortex StrikeFire at range. I'm using the Vortex Magnifier on a Colt 6920. Let me get you a good sight picture looking down the magnifier. There is the, where's the dot? There is the dot. It's in the grass. Okay, now it's in the backstop. There you go, you should be able to see the dot. Okay, so there's the sight picture down the magnifier. Let me make it easier to see just a regular sight picture with the unlimited eye relief. Yeah, it is really bright. It's 5 p.m. There's no overcast, so this is also maximum brightness setting. So it definitely could be a little bit brighter. I'm going to be shooting at one of these 6-inch shoot and see targets, but the Vortex StrikeFire, being a 4 MOA dot, should only cover about this much of the circle. But depending on how well I can get the magnifier to focus, the dot might cover the entire circle. So let's hope for the best. Here are the results after shooting the Colt with the Vortex StrikeFire. I used these 3 targets to confirm and get my zero where I wanted it. I don't know why these shots were still consistent, but consistently right. I guess the wind must have picked up. Look at the windage flags. And here's where I actually tried to shoot for a group. If you guys remember from my previous video, I actually used this target for assessing the accuracy of my 7.62 upper. But as to why the shots are so wide apart, I don't want to make any excuses for my performance, but the limitation is the size of the reticle. It is a 4 MOA dot. Maybe my barrel was a little hotter after having all these shots fired. But you know, this was using steel cased ammo. I'm sure guys with better ammo, or me using better ammo, could have done a better job. But again, 4 MOA dot, it was never intended to be super precise, just minute of man at 100, 200 yards or so. Red dots are mostly for offhand shooting in close situations, so being able to be this close at this far is very, very possible for minute of man at extreme ranges. So the reason I did my accuracy testing with Wolf Military Classic steel cased ammo is that I think it's more representative of the type of ammo that people like to use when they're shooting with a one-time zoom optic. Even if you don't like shooting steel out of your AR-15, that's fine, but even moving up to something like federal ammo, like American Eagle or PMC ammo, some of the more affordable rounds, even Wolf Gold, most people aren't going to be shooting match ammo out of a one-time electronic optic. So I think it's fair to use a cheaper round to assess accuracy, because you know that you can only get better from that point on. Back to what I said about not everybody being able to use taxpayer money to buy their optics. Aimpoint and EOTech have the high-end optic market pretty much locked down, and optics makers know that. I have two EOTechs. I use one on my 7.62 AR-15 and I use one on my Tavor, but well, what did I say? Optics makers know that they're not going to be able to compete with EOTech and Aimpoint in the high-end optics market. And Vortex is a name that is extremely, extremely respected in the shooting community. They have some very high-end, expensive scopes that'll run you over $1,000. But they also have an entry-level product line for guys that are just getting into shooting or people that are on more constrained budgets. And, you know, they're not the destitute tier. I would say the destitute tier of optics is like less than $50. And even though those sights are marketed as being able to be used on real weapons, these sights are probably better left on airsoft guns, because this optic died after one magazine. Bushnell makes a $75 optic that is very well reviewed, and Primary Arms has an $80 optic that is really well reviewed, and the Vortex StrikeFire is $170, I think it's $179 on Amazon, and it's pretty high quality. I mean, the battery life is not overly impressive. It's advertised as having 300 hours on the maximum brightness setting of battery life and 6,000 hours on the lowest brightness setting, but I think most of you are going to be shooting outside, and because of that you want to have your brightness setting, if it's especially sunny without an overcast, you're going to be running at max brightness setting, so the battery life is not overly impressive, but the build quality is extremely solid. This optic can take a lot of, like, you know, hard hits banging around. Can it take a hit after being smashed against a tree? And that's debatable, but then again, you can ask the same question to an Aimpoint Pro or EOTech. Are they going to be able to withstand being hit really hard up against a tree if, like, you have your rifle in a sling and you fall unexpectedly? I don't know. I don't want to do a torture test like that, because this is a optic that I paid for out of pocket. But yeah, this optic holds zero really, really well. It has a very high recoil rating. And I think at this price point, you know, you're definitely not getting the cool factor of using an Aimpoint, but anybody that tells you that you have to have an Aimpoint to enjoy your shooting experience is an armchair commando with penis-sized issues. So ignore what they say. I think this optic is very good for competitive use. I would trust it in a personal defense situation. If I was going to Iraq tomorrow, of course I would be using taxpayer money to get my optics. But if I was going to a war zone, of course I would take no chances. But then again, all I'm doing is shooting holes in paper at the range. So for most of us, an optic like this could be completely fine. So thank you very much for watching my review of the Vortex StrikeFire Generation 2 red and green dot sight. I have very, very positive impressions of this optic. Thank you very much again. My name is David, and I will see you next video.